politicians can run and get elected on every 2 years. Everybody says they're going to solve it. But for different reasons, both sides of the aisle want the illegal immigration problem to continue. I believe that SB 1070 was an appropriate measure taken by Arizona in order to do what we can here to help solve the problem. Now, that does not excuse the federal government for not doing its job. And when we do get to the overt, what's the answer on the border, I will give you my ideas about how we can actually solve this problem on the border. In the meantime, thank you to the state legislature and to Governor Brewer for signing 1070 into law.
You're welcome, Brian. A lot of people talk about SB Senate Bill 1070. I didn't just talk about it, I voted for it. And now it's the law of the land in this state. I helped get it passed as the Senate Judiciary Chair, and I helped get it passed because not only have I voted for this bill, I voted for every single anti-illegal immigration in the state legislature. Every single one of them. People ask all the time, well, what is this bill going to do? And they try to make it a racial issue out of it. This isn't about race. This is about obeying the law, and this is about national security. We have a congresswoman right now that says that if she were in the legislature now, she would have voted against Senate Bill 1070. And her reason is she says it does nothing to secure the border. Well, here's my opinion. It stops people from wanting to come into Arizona in the first place, does it not? And we know that it's going to mean a lot to people who are here illegally already, and they're probably going to leave. That's why we passed it, because we were tired of listening to politicians in Washington, D.C. talk tough about the border, and we wanted to see something actually happen. That's why the state of Arizona had to do something. That's why I voted for it. That's why I also introduced the Human Smuggling Act in Arizona that's put over 2,000 illegal immigrant smugglers behind bars. Thank you very much.
Jessica.
I 100% support SB 1070. It's a great law, and the only people I've really heard come out against it are the liberals in the media and the malcontents that are in this country illegally. As far as what the rest of what Jonathan Payton just said, I think it's important we note this. It's not only the liberals, it's half the people in the Republican Party. That's the reason the border is not secure. You talk about this human smuggling law you passed? Well, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who supports and endorses me in this race, along with the Border Patrol, along with Tom Tancredo, along with Duncan Hunter, people who've actually done something about the border. Well, Sheriff Joe says you didn't want the law enforced. He says you passed a human smuggling law and then joined with Janet Napolitano to ask that it not be enforced against low-level illegal immigrants, therefore handicapping law enforcement. So I think I've heard for the last time you champion a human smuggling law that you pass and then don't want enforced. That is the problem with politicians. That is the problem with weak-willed politicians on our own side that say one thing and do another. And we see this constantly. It's time to stop sending politicians to Washington.
Mr. Payton is going to use his rebuttal card, and it's going to give you, is it 1 or 2 minutes to rebut? 1 minute to rebut, so pass that card down here, will you, gentlemen, and I'll start the clock.
That's just patently false. The truth is that the county attorney, who actually is the one who prosecuted the Human Smuggling Act, a guy by the name of Andy Thomas, Maricopa County attorney, who is now running for Attorney General, endorsed me because I introduced the Human Smuggling Act in this state. And he is the one that's actually been the one who's prosecuted all these crimes. I have never said that the governor should not sign this or do anything to change it. I've said the truth when the bill was introduced, absolutely, that's how it was written. I never objected to the fact that how they decided to enforce it. And I think it's patently false to mislead people to think that I don't support every single anti-illegal immigration statute in this state, because I voted for every single one of them.
Thank you. We're going to move now to question number 3 if there's no further additions or rebuttals. This will be the first to respond will be Jonathan Payton, and the question will be asked by Mr. President Brittle.
Subject, Jonathan, is securing the border. If elected to the House of Representatives, what specific actions do you propose the Congress should take to ensure that our borders are secure?
You know, they sent 1,200 troops. They're saying they're going to send 1,200 troops to our border. Do you really think that 1,200 troops is going to solve the problem? It's kind of ironic because the congresswoman that did this in the first place, she actually voted against it when it was in the legislature. I voted for it. I voted for it because I know that you can build all the walls you want. You can build if you had a prison and you built a double or triple layer fence around that prison, if you didn't have someone manning that wall, eventually everyone would get out. We all know that. We need at least 6,000 troops to go to the border. At least 6,000 troops, because we know those 1,200 troops are not going to amount to much here in southern Arizona. We know they're going to be split up with the other states. We know that those troops are going to have rotating shifts, so we're going to have a couple hundred people at the most. And they're not going to be able to defend themselves either. So we're going to see some of the things that happened previously. I believe that if we're going to control our border, we need to have human beings, and we can trust. The most trusted individual in this country is the American soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine, and that's who should be on that wall. We should also have that wall, and I voted for the wall when it went through the legislature. Unfortunately, we have people in Congress who won't support it. If you support me, I will make sure I do everything I can to really secure the border instead of having window dressing like our current congressman.
Mr. Kelly, if you'd
Well, I think Janet Napolitano has it all covered. I don't see what the problem is. Now, we need to build a double-layer border fence. This talk that fences and walls don't keep people out, someone should have told the Chinese that when they built one clear across their country. Of course it keeps people out. Put the Border Patrol on the border with the double-layer border fence. They built that fence in San Diego. Violent crime dropped by 54% when they built it. Drug and human smuggling dropped by 90% when they built it. It's already federally legislated to be built. What they've done is they've taken away the money for it. Get the appropriations back in the defense bill, protect our people, get the Border Patrol on the border, get real employer sanctions, fund E-Verify. Again, this is why the strong on the border people like Arpaio and Tancredo and the Border Patrol stand with me. That's because we're actually going to do something about the problems. We're not going to stand with the other Republicans who like their talking points and then push for amnesty when the time comes.
Well, you're going to hear a different take, and this is one where I stand out significantly from my opponents, and frankly the only one on either side of the aisle, because I don't believe that we can solve this problem with enforcement only. Enforcement is key, enforcement is first. But we've got to put our Border Patrol on the border. We currently have 20,000 Border Patrol agents. Fewer than 10% of them actually are on the border. We currently have a proposition by my opponent to build a 2,000-mile wall and add more Border Patrol agents. If you look at the actual cost that was proposed by Congressman Hunter for the wall in San Diego, it was $2.1 million. Of course, like in every government project, where government fails, government grows, and that wall actually costs $9 million per mile, plus $2 million per year in maintenance. And if you do all that math, and you stretch it across 2,000 miles, and add the additional Border Patrol that is called for, you come up to over $250 billion over the lifespan of the fence, which, by the way, the lifespan is 25 years. Now, what we need is personnel on the border. You can achieve the same results for a fraction of the price by putting our Border Patrol agents on the border. That is true border security. In addition, we have got to stop. How am I doing on time, Ray?
You're going to be, I got 40 seconds.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
Just watch me.
In addition, we've got to remove basically 3 big incentives that people have to come here illegally. Welfare for those here illegally, the talk of amnesty that has got to stop, and the anchor baby phenomenon. And Ray, I'm going to use this.
Okay.
We've got to get rid of those incentives for people to do it illegally, and we need to make it so if people want to come here, they can do it legally. We currently have more than 3.5 million people in the queue to come here legally. But we let in fewer than 10% of that per year. The average wait time, as an example, for a Mexican to come here legally is about 17 years. The average wait time for a Filipino to come here is about 23 years. So if you look at the incentives are to do it illegally. We need to make it so it benefits us. If there was a system that we could, number one, secure the border, keep Americans safe, have people assimilate to our culture, pay into the system, work on